Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description and every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. One mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 2, Episode 7 of Apple TV's Foundation, entitled A Necessary Death. So this episode is based on the words that Tellum says to Salvor right after she seemingly allows her to meet Harry in the afterlife, and it ties into a great scene earlier in the episode on something called Ghost Molochs. So Tellum, after seeing that Salvor has discovered the version of Harry that Tellum drowned, says that sometimes you gotta absorb the pain because a little death is necessary. So that's where we get the episode title from. Although, I'm not entirely sure that Salvor dies here. It's implied with the comment and, of course, with her going. But Tellum drowned Harry. That death felt real, even though I still kind of don't believe it, but that felt real. If she wanted to kill Salvor, she had her in the same position, drown her too. But instead, she did her thing with the hands and snapped like a little magic trick, and Salvor passed out, which makes me wonder if Salvor wasn't killed, but she was she had her mind unthought. Unthink their minds, like, or she just had her mind unthought. But before I fully get into the episode, I want to apologize again for the lateness of this video. My past couple Fridays have been pretty packed with activities. I've been finding it really beneficial to watch these episodes a second time as well before I sit down and talk to them with you guys. So that's why this has been happening. But on the plus side, this should be the last time I put out a late Foundation video. My Fridays are pretty clear from this point on, I think. And then furthermore, if you're watching this video right now, chances are my review for episode 8 is already up for you to play right after you finish this one. I completed a second watch of this episode. I'm recording this video, then I'm going to immediately watch episode 8 and then do that video. So both episodes, both videos for both episodes are coming out today, Friday, September 1st. So that's going to be, I guess, the positive side of how late this one is, but it's like, you get 2 for 1 today. Now all that boring shit's out of the way, let's talk about this episode. So, I feel like this season is getting better and better each week. This episode raised a lot of interesting questions for me surrounding character motivations largely for Demerzel, Tellum, even Sereth. I'm increasingly intrigued by Tellum. She almost seems to exist in the plot solely to upend my expectations. I thought of all of the storyline advance. I thought all of these storyline advances were compelling this week, even Hober and the Clerics, which I feel like have generally been lacking throughout the entirety of the season. And I just really believe this show is setting up a phenomenal close to the season. So let's get into it. There wasn't a lot of attention given to the Clerics and Hober Mallow again this week, so my main focus here is going to be on the Empire and Shag plot lines. Although I guess I kind of have to change it to just Sag now since Harry's dead, or Flesh Harry is dead. But I'm going to start with Empire. And I'm starting with Empire no longer because it's the most compelling plot line. The Gale / Salvor / Tellum stuff has been pretty damn good in its own right. But just because that's how the episode starts, and I wanted to give a shout out to one of the writers right off the bat. I hope whoever wrote just as General Rios reaches the outer reach reaches out is really proud of themselves. Like, I heard that line, I was like, holy shit, that's incredible. Also, now that I think about it, if Flesh Harry is dead, I could swap him out for Tellum in my acronym, and now the acronym can be STAG. That's so fucking dumb. Salvor, Tellum, why am I even, I'm even doing my fingers. Salvor, Tellum, and Gale. There we go. Anywho, while Dale is... Dale. Day plus Gale. While Day is informed of the arrival of the clerics, Demerzel almost seems to be trying to nudge him out of the marriage, ask him if he's having second thoughts. And what I liked about this scene is that it really muddies the waters for me as it pertains to the relationship between Demerzel and Day. Like, I kind of thought initially that they were just fucking, but it seems to have evolved into a real love for each other. Now, when I say evolve, I don't necessarily mean over the course of this season. I mean over the course of, like, the time in between the Day that in Demerzel that we saw in season 1 and this Day in Demerzel. Just the natural progression of the relationship between Demerzel and the Cleons. It just looks like at this point in time has evolved into something that's more of a real relationship and less of a servant-master one. They both look tearful as they discuss the marriage to Sereth. And even though they stop short of kissing, Day says she'll always have a place with his new family. He's even like, even if they don't look like me, which is like, in modern day, you think, of course your kids are going to look like you. What are you talking about? But it's like, okay, well, his kids have literally, not kids, but like, his descendants have literally been him. So now these kids are going to be like these little light-skinned babies, mixed babies with Sereth, and yeah, they're not going to look like him in the way that he is accustomed to, which I thought that was a cool little interesting world building kind of tidbit there. But I feel like Demerzel doesn't want this marriage to happen, but I don't see why if she doesn't want it to happen, why she wouldn't more directly advise against it, or why she would facilitate the death of Sereth's family to help get Sereth into that position in the first place. And I know I'm putting the cart in front of the horse here, talking about Demerzel killing Sereth's family, but the more and more I think about it, the more I wonder about Demerzel and just what she's up to. So Sereth and Rue discuss Sereth's stunt at the memorial presentation, and Sereth is quite proud of herself, but Rue advises against embarrassing Day. Side note on this, I haven't caught Rue's title until now, though I'm sure it's been said and I just didn't realize it was her title. Her title is Enjoiner, spelled an E. To enjoin means to instruct someone to do something under authority, so I'm guessing essentially Enjoiner means that she's essentially the voice of Sereth. Like, she could dole out instructions and commands, and her authority is really her proximity to Sereth, or Sereth's family prior to right now. Moving on, Demerzel interrupts to let Sereth know that she's due for a final physical exam to make sure her body can handle the baby of a man who struggled to take off his pants when it was time to fuck. But anyway, I love the exam scene. But before I get to that, I want to talk about the conversation that Demerzel and Sereth have on the way there. We learn that Demerzel is the last of her kind, with all the robots killed as something that Sereth refers to as the Great Pogrom. Pogrom, it's Pogrom. It's essentially an organized extermination of a specific ethnic group. So think the Holocaust, for example. I guess in this case, the ethnic group was robots. So she served Cleon the First, and she used to be bound by 3 laws to protect humans. She couldn't harm them, and she couldn't allow harm to come to them. Now she's only bound by 1 law, which is to serve Empire. And Sereth is like, well, shit, if I'm marrying Day, then that makes me Empire, so you go serve me, right? And Demerzel's like, I serve Empire. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like a no to me. But it could also be like, Demerzel could be like this show's Varys from Game of Thrones. And we're going to speak about Game of Thrones again a bit later, because this is not the first comparison I'm going to make to Game of Thrones. But what I mean by that is that she could be like Varys in that both her and Varys are only interested in what's best for the realm, or in this case, for Empire. Or more specifically, not even necessarily for Empire in the sense of dusk, dawn, and day specifically, but for the longevity of the genetic dynasty. So to the exam, moving on to the exam, Sarah spends her entire exam shitting all over Demerzel in just an outstanding way. She's like, first of all, call me old-fashioned, but you ain't doing any premarital egg harvesting over here. And then she turns her sights to Demerzel and she's like, I can't remember what. She was Demerzel's like, what you agreed to marry Day, your embryos, I don't know what, became imperial property. She's like, bitch, I bet you know everything there is to know about being imperial property, huh? It's like, god damn, she going hard. And then she even says like, hey, if you want to keep fucking Day so I ain't gotta do it and all I gotta do is carry the babies, I'm all in. She says something like, if you want to keep playing Sanctum and Scepter, by all means. I'm like, man, she's going so hard on Demerzel. And Demerzel just sitting there looking like somebody who's getting roasted like in a rap battle. How you just sit there like, whatever, dog, whatever. And she just getting cooked. And Demerzel throwing up in her mouth over having her sex life her sex life getting put out on Front Street in front of a bunch of fucking like medical interns and shit. Like, Demerzel was fucking furious. But Justice Rue advised that Sarah shouldn't embarrass Day. She apparently shouldn't have embarrassed Demerzel either. She asked to speak to her alone, and she's basically like, keep fucking with me. That's why your whole ass family got burned alive by the air around them with the precision that I bring to my killings. I said, god damn. This has just been a fucking catty, petty fucking, and over dick. Like, I ain't fighting over Day. Which admittedly, like, if I was built like that, I would expect women to be fighting over me too, but fuck. Like, man, can't believe these two powerful women are getting at each other over dick. But what's interesting about this scene is the very real, like being serious, the very real human emotions that Demerzel displays. Embarrassment, jealousy, envy, pettiness, very real human emotions. And then later, Sarah bores the fuck out of Day and the audience by telling them about each of her dead family members. And he's sitting there listening to this shit with this look on his face like, oh my god, I'm so sick of hearing about her family that I killed. Oh my god, can I stop hearing about this? But when she starts talking about a dead baby, he kind of seems to loosen up a little bit. And he feels bad. He says they're going to honor her family, and that's what she reveals that she knows about his indirect involvement. He says that she should be grateful for where she is. And through tears, she agrees, I am grateful. But then as she leaves, she secretly requests to have a meeting with Dawn. She meets with Dawn while wearing face scramblers so that they're not recognized, and she butters him up, and I believe that's what she's been doing this entire time, by saying things like he has kind eyes, and he is essentially better for her baby than Day is. And she says she'll marry Day, but she can't have his baby, and proposes that she can have Dawn's baby, since they're the same person, so the genetics would be untraceable, but then the baby could have Dawn's kind heart and eyes, and not Day's evil heart and eyes and incredible pecs. In reality, this is, as she says, a bloodless fucking coup. Day plans on ending the genetic dynasty, which essentially ends Dawn. This way, with the true heir being his legacy would persist. She sells Dawn on this by speaking to his ego, telling him how kind he is, speaking to his legacy, which is something I think is important to most men, whether they are Cleon emperors or Walmart greeters. All of us care about legacy. This is why I said that the previous mention of Game of Thrones wouldn't be the last. Doesn't this sound like a Game of Thrones type plotline, secretly being impregnated by the younger version of her husband to be a powerful secret child with powerful lineage? Sounds very Game of Thrones to me. It also makes me wonder about Sarah's long-term goal. Like, it's been acknowledged by several, including Day, that she's a schemer. She can make plans. She's smart. What's her long-term goal here? It can't merely be revenge for her family. Like, nah, I think it feels like she's trying to do some, like, again, Cersei type shit by putting someone in power she can control, thus making her the person who's truly in power. Lastly, on this point, do you think they fucked right after that conversation? I kind of feel like they couldn't have, though, because Dawn hasn't had whatever procedure is necessary to activate his sperm. How does he get that procedure done in secret? Like, and it would have to be a secret because he can't go to a doctor and be like, hey, don't tell anybody, but I just need you to activate my sperm real quick. Like, I can't see that being an effective way to get this done. But that's enough. Moving on to the Stag storyline. And I know I said I wasn't going to explain the acronym anymore, but since I just changed it, Salvor, Tellum, and Gale. So the first scene with Gale, we see her, I loved this scene. She's like perched atop a rock, like Batman or a gargoyle, and then Salvor like sneaks up on her unintentionally, and then she like zaps her with the force or some shit. And Salvor's like, damn, bitch, did Tellum teach you? Did Tellum teach you how to do that? And I'm just like, what is even happening with this scene right now? Like, that scene didn't really fit in with the vibe of this show to me, man. I don't know. That shit was so funny. Anyway, Salvor wants to leave Ignis because she's noticing how off everything is. She can't read everyone like she usually could. And she thinks that they just need to leave. And she later talks to Laron. That's the black guy with the facial scars that pretended to be Hugo earlier in the season. After he tells a story that none of us needed to hear about how he got his scars because it's the same way everyone else did, Salvor notices him looking over very conspicuously at a boat. Lots of conspicuous looks at things in this season. Looking at a boat, and she flips her coin nervously. And we don't know what that means in the moment, but later we learn that she wasn't able to predict the outcome of the flips like she normally could, which is what sparked her into looking into that boat. Before we get into that and the end of the episode, there's a great scene where dinner is being prepared and these animals called ghost mollusks are dumped into boiling water, just like lobsters, alive. And they scream when they're dumped in, and they scream in a way that both Gale and Salvor literally feel. Tellum tells them that everything is heightened for them there, but they don't shy away from the pain because if you feel everything, you don't take more than you need. And I don't know, I was like, mind blown emoji at that comment. I was like, damn, that's deep, man. But Gale later literally preaches to the congregation about how smart Harry was and how he learned to predict the future with math. But then she's like, but you guys and me, we're so great and powerful that we're anomalies that couldn't be accounted for, and we can all stop the mule together. Salvor later checks Gale about feeling herself too much. Gale denies it, but says that Salvor has to chill. Salvor does the complete opposite of chilling, and she leaves in the middle of the night back to that boat that she's been eye-fucking the whole episode. She discovered earlier that the navigation had been wiped, but not completely. She takes the boat to where it was last located at. She finds Flesh Harry's body, and that's what Tellum comes and snaps her to the afterlife or into a really sound nap. But let's close by going over what we learned about the clerics and Hober real quick. Hober comes to the Spacers with a deal. He says they rely on a micronutrient called Opalesque to live. And supposedly only Empire has this, and they use it to control the Spacers. They take 10% of their offspring to navigate the ships, and then they get the Opalesque. If you don't hand over your 10% of offspring, no Opalesque, and you guys can't survive. Hober presents a vial of Opalesque and says that even though they've been told it's impossible to produce, Harry's scientists have figured it out. If they join Team Foundation, he can provide them with Opalesque and they can be free of Empire because Empire will be done with you as soon as they see ships like mine being Hober, the Whisper ships, and they don't need Spacers anymore. So after telepathically conferring with her daughter, who just so happens to be the Spacer that is with Bel Rios, the Spacer tells Hober there's no deal because if Empire finds out, they're going to take 20% of their kids. So they teleport the Hive Swarm and Hober's Whisper ship right to Bel Rios, but before Bel can take control of the ship, Hober releases Becky and they escape and they make a jump right within the confines of the hangar, which everyone explains for us so that we can know the significance of it. They should not have been able to do that in such close quarters. After seeing this, Glawen, who is who is Bel Rios' husband, he seems to be interested in joining up with the Foundation, or at the very least, not helping Day. But Bel makes the great point of, if he doesn't listen to Day, Day's just going to kill Glawen, make Bel watch the feed of the killing on the back of his own eyelids, while Day just has someone else execute the order that Bel Rios refused in the first place. He also talks about large swaths of space living in lawlessness, which is scary as fuck because, I mean, people act like all of Chicago or here, Detroit, like we live in lawlessness, which we don't. But if we did, we're just cities within one country on one planet. Can you imagine if the way people perceive here, Chicago, or here in Detroit or Chicago, if the way people perceive that applied to entire portions of the galaxy? Like that's crazy to me. Lastly, the clerics are brought before Day, and Day lets Polly know they've already found out what Hober was up to, which Polly and Costa obviously didn't know because they were the left hand and Hober was the right hand. A hologram projection of Harry is then put in front of Day, and Harry boasts about how they know with mathematical certainty that they can defeat Empire if it comes to that. And Day's like, well, you don't know shit because you thought that the genetic dynasty was our weakness. Well, unbeknownst to you, I'm ending the genetic dynasty, so you don't know shit, and all of your predictions are out of date. And he then sends Bel Rios to Terminus to fetch any kind of nice tech they have, because technically that belongs to him. And then they electrocute Constant. And before I close, I have one thought. There was a moment when Salvor returned to Tellum's home base. I don't know what you call it, wherever they're all located on Ignis. And everyone's like playing wind instruments together. And it just made me wonder at that time, because I was high when I watched it the first time, if they can unvoice, can they talk to each other while they're playing an instrument? I don't know why I'm doing this instrument motion with my hands, but like while they're playing the clarinet, can they have conversations? I don't know. But that's all I got for episode 7. Again, really good stuff set up here. I thought it was a really compelling episode. I thought everything, I feel like everything's working at this point, and I'm super excited to see what happens in episode 8. I'm going to go watch that, and I'm going to come back here. I'm going to talk about it for you guys, so that way I can no longer be behind on my Foundation videos. So I will see you guys not next week, unless you wait a week to watch my video for episode 8. I will see you right after this if you are watching this and decide to go right to episode 8, or I will see you in an hour or two, depending on whenever you decide to watch it. But whatever that is, until then, peace.